What's up?
What's up? How's
Well,
it going, guys?
welcome to RNC Watch TV.
It's good to be back. We were off last week.
Yeah, we had a holiday.
And then we didn't really get a lot of time to actually watch TV together until tonight, but
No,
I'm glad we're back for this week.
we're back on our bull crap. So today we're going to talk about things that I've watched without you.
Awesome.
I have had a big sty type situation, and so on top of that, I was just extremely tired. So you went to visit my family without me for Thanksgiving, and everyone loves you. So I think, honestly, if it was only one of us, everybody was happier this way.
Oh, I had to represent.
No, you helped my sister drive, and that was super helpful.
I'm good at long drives.
You
One of
are
the
great.
areas I excel in.
Yes, it is one of your many talents. So anyway, that left me with many days being with just the cats in the condo. And so I got to watch a lot of a new show that I've been watching on Paramount Plus called Ghosts.
Ah, yeah. You were starting it right before I left.
Yeah, I started right before you left.
And so, what episode are you on now?
I'm on season 2, episode 14.
That is impressive. It's been a while since I've found something that bingeable. So I'm jealous and also happy for you.
To be fair, some of the time, so my glasses hurt my face, and that's usually not a problem because I wear contacts, but with the eye thing, I have to wear my glasses. So it's kind of one of those things where I have a certain number of hours in a day I can wear my glasses before they start to hurt my face.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to find activities I can do without my glasses during the day. So some of the time I have had it on while I popped bubbles. It's like once you watch enough of it, then you what the characters
format.
look like, who you know their voices, you know who's talking. So and it's one of those shows that requires almost nothing from the viewer. It's not challenging. The plots are not complicated. The jokes are not sophisticated. Usually, I don't know. There are varying levels of sophistication of the jokes, but yeah, it's one of those that's just really relaxing. And I think the thing that I like the best about the show is that it's very much like Ted Lasso in that, I mean, people are complicated, but it's not an anti-hero situation. Like, you're just straightforwardly rooting for everybody. There's no villain. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, very much like Ted Lasso. It's like, I mean, there was a villain in Ted Lasso, but then at the end, like, you had some amount of empathy for them, and there was some like personal growth, I think, a little bit. And basically every episode will have of the Ghosts will have a villain.
It's like it's like Star Trek in a way in that it has a villain of the week a lot of times.
Yeah.
And they're generally also lighthearted and
It is very Star Trek in that way, where it's like, oh, somebody's acting badly, but they're good because of all the other episodes they've been in. Or if it's a new character, by the end, it's like they're not a bad being. The incentives are such, or they weren't thinking, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I really like it. It's very, I don't know, the opposite of cynical, and fun and lighthearted and hopeful. And it's apparently based on a UK show of the same name. I've never heard of the UK show, or I don't know anything about it, though probably when I'm done binging the American version, I'll binge the British version.
Series to enjoy.
It's interesting how Ted Lasso was also set in the UK. Seeing a pattern.
It's going to be interesting now when there's a British version of it that takes place in the US. That would bring me joy for some reason.
Any other thoughts on that from your limited viewing?
Yeah, it just seems like a good lighthearted show that doesn't take too much from you. You can watch it in the background and still find it very enjoyable. It's generally upbeat and lighthearted and just it's just a relaxing show, I guess.
The thing about it, I find, okay, my main critique of it is Jay, the husband.
How so?
He just seems very like one-dimensional
They didn't write him to be very sophisticated.
or like interesting or I don't know. He just doesn't. To me, it's like they took the way women are often written, but then they just reverse the genders. And it's like, I don't know. I don't think that's progress necessarily.
No, and I mean, maybe, yeah, I'd never thought of it from that perspective. But it is like they gender swapped essentially, like the minimized roles that don't really have any significant depth.
He just seems like he's mostly like her patsy, or like not patsy, but just errand boy. He has like they're constantly having conversations that he can't hear, her and the ghosts, and he's like left. I mean, he'll like complain like about being left out, but not as much as you would think. I don't know. Just a thought.
He's very agreeable and accepting of the situation.
Yeah, like unreasonably. It's also, I think, interesting how little they've addressed their being a biracial couple, like his non-whiteness. I don't know. I just feel like it would come up more in real life, but maybe not.
Given the context of the show, it seems like there's a lot of, yeah. I don't know if I would say it's supposed to, not, yeah. I don't actually know what my response to that would be.
The other thing I was thinking, now that I'm thinking about like political critiques of a very lighthearted, ridiculous show, there was a part where zoning came up.
Oh, yeah, the dude that came and tried to make them bribe him for the, like, zoning for it to be an Airbnb.
Yeah. And what was the bribe?
It was like $25,000 or something they needed to donate to like his department.
Yeah.
That part seems pretty true to life, actually.
It's what I thought listening to it was like, my God, if only things were actually that good, if you only needed to cut a check for $25,000 to like one
What
dude.
you said about San Francisco, yeah, that sounds like getting out cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I don't know. You take your most cynical person and then you ask them like come up with like the most screwed up system you can imagine, and San Francisco is worse than any one cynic could possibly like invent.
Welcome to Housing for Uncivilians. This week.
Anyway, tune into our other podcast if you want more on that. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was that you did not watch was Napoleon, the Napoleon movie.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, first of all, Joaquin Phoenix, great actor, did a great job. Really enjoyed watching him. He's 20 years too old. Like, most of Napoleon's exploits were when he was in his like 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
Which someone on Twitter pointed out, but I was like, yeah, that's interesting. I enjoy, like, I watched it with my fam on Thanksgiving and it was fun. And I'm glad I watched it, but I do have some notes.
Well, tell us, what are these?
Okay. Well, first of all, what's good about it? The battle scenes were the best depiction of battle I've ever seen in any recorded format. Show, movie, docuseries, reenactment, whatever. excellent battle scenes. And what made them so good was it was just the right amount of gore. Like it was, you didn't feel like they were shying away, but it didn't feel gratuitous. And then the other thing that I really liked was it depicted pretty clearly the strategy that went into the battle. Because usually in a battle scene, you're just like, what's happening?
Yeah,
like,
it's just pandemonium.
Yeah, it's like close-up shots of like people hurting each other. And it's like, I don't want to watch this. Who wants to watch this? But with these battle scenes, it was like you saw the like aerial shots and like where the troops were set up and like who was expecting what and like why it worked. And it was just like interesting.
That does sound like a really good new take that you, yeah.
And it was just
really
like they had the budget for it, you know? You just saw like, I guess you can't spoil and, you know, God, 300, not good at math-year-old story, but
math is annoying. Very annoying.
But the 250 the cannonballs like breaking through the ice, and then the like guys on their on horseback like falling through the ice, you know, they had the budget to like show that. That was cool. But thinking about the battles were cool. The things that I did not like about the movie were essentially everything other than the battles and explaining why the battles mattered. And I'm going to start with the most egregious part. I don't know, actually. The two most egregious parts were like the movie kind of tried to show like place Napoleon in history, which, you know, Napoleon is he comes to prominence after the Reign of Terror as part of the French Revolution. The kind of government of France post monarchy hires Napoleon hires Napoleon to keep order and to defend against the monarchists. And then he becomes famous when a mob of anarchists, he uses cannons and just like fires into this mob of monarchists and takes them down pretty handily. Anyway, so the movie begins. So they're trying to put us in history, which is like good. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
But so the movie begins with Marie Antoinette's beheading, which it's not like, it was just done poor. Like Marie Antoinette didn't look particularly haggard or particularly, you know, done up, and nothing about it was particularly interesting visually. Nothing about the way that they depicted it was particularly visually striking and maybe it was just very subtle, and like super history nerds who are like really good at like picking out cues of like, oh, they included that. And it's like, but for me, and I've heard the story a few times, like to me, if you're going to depict any part of the Marie Antoinette thing, like the beheading is the most boring part. Like what's interesting is that they kidnapped her son, you know, the would-be king, and forced him to testify that Marie Antoinette had sexually abused him.
Damn.
And everyone hated Marie Antoinette. Like they despised her. The French people hated Marie Antoinette. But the revolutionists, by doing this to her, people in the courtroom actually, especially the other mothers, like had sympathy for Marie Antoinette. They're like, man, that's a horrible thing to do to anyone, even someone we hate. So if you're going to depict any scene of Marie Antoinette, like that's the more interesting scene to depict. And then just like, you know, I guess, I mean, I don't know if everyone knows.
What was it rated, out of curiosity?
I'm sure it's R based on what it depicted.
Oh, yes. I mean, maybe they just didn't want to broach the subject matter. But I mean, it's not like they had any more ratings to slip. Like they were already at R.
Right.
Yeah, so that doesn't make sense.
Well, and then I was going to say, they literally showed the beheading. Like they showed guillotine going through her neck. They showed somebody holding her head up. They like showed the head. And it's like, it's just graphic for the sake of graphic. It's not interesting. It's not particularly like compelling one way or another. It's just gross. And so it's like, you don't need to show that. And if you're going to show it,
it needs to be for a reason.
Yeah, do it well. Anyway, that's just an example. Like they had like people getting out of the Bastille. Again, like I just feel like a lot of this could have been like a Star Wars, like, you know, writing on the screen that's just like, this is what's going on in history at this time. You know, you don't need to show it if you're not going to do a good job with it. Then the other thing that was annoying was the writing was just not great. Particularly, they would weave in like anachronisms, I think, to get laughs, but it only worked like half the time. And then, oh my gosh, Josephine. Now, the actress who played Josephine did an amazing job. Like, she was truly given a turd and was working her butt off to polish it up. But that script was a turd. And you're just like, okay, this is one of the most interesting questions about Napoleon. Actually, the two most interesting questions about Napoleon are like, why? Why did he do all that? And then why was he so obsessed with Josephine? This movie is 2 hours and 23 minutes long.
Jesus.
Spends a lot of screen time on both Napoleon and Josephine and them together, and does not even begin to answer any of those questions.
Yeah, that sounds disappointing.
Let me tell you about my favorite scene. And by favorite, I mean just encapsulates what I found so off-putting about the whole depiction of their love story. So this is early on, before they like get together. They're essentially like deciding whether they're going to get together in this scene. So it's pretty pivotal. They're just alone in a room, sitting next to each other, kind of like this, like, and like chairs tilted toward each other. And at some point, Josephine, opens her legs. It says essentially, look down. There's a surprise. And once you see it, you won't be able to get enough of it. I have no idea what the surprise was. 2 hours and 23 minutes later, I'm like, what? Did you have a little penis? Like, did she have a really... What? What was surprising about...
It sounds like it's just a terrible pickup line is what my first read was.
Yes, except, yeah, just... Like, what's the line? Don't bring up a gun in Act 1 unless somebody uses it in Act 3. Anyway, I don't know. Historians, get at me. Like, get in the comments. Was there anything surprising about... Because she has 2 kids. Like, it's not... I don't know, man. Anyway, I wouldn't watch it, honestly.
I wouldn't watch it.
Here's the thing. This is what we need. Everybody's like, ooh, director cut, director cut. We need a Cliff's Notes cut. We need someone to go through in every movie. All movies are like more than 2 hours now for some damn reason. We need somebody to go through, take these bloated ass movies, cut out the best parts. Instead of a super cut, we need like a mini cut of all the best parts. If somebody made a movie of just like, honestly, just the battle scenes, and then some historian being like, and this is why this mattered geopolitically. And especially if it were like 4 dummies, like very broken down. That would be a great movie.
Yeah, that'd be legit.
But this is not that, so.
It doesn't sound like it's that at all.
Anyway. Anything else?
I mean, I didn't watch it, so I don't have much to add.
Did you watch anything this past week?
No. No.
Good for you.
There was no time for TV.
Just socializing.
I heard what was it? Olympus Has Fallen playing over the van speakers on all day, or not, for 2 hours on the drive back.
What is Olympus Has Fallen?
It's like some like the White House has been breached movies, but it's like, you know, just ridiculously absurd, like plot and explosions.
Did someone watch that in the back seat?
Yes.
How was it? How did it sound?
Terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Where was the DVD obtained?
It apparently was already in the van.
Huh. Speaking of consuming things, I also listened to all of World's Worst Assistant while you were gone, which is Conan O'Brien's assistant's memoir. And that was pretty good. If you love Conan O'Brien, as I do, and you do.
Oh, yeah.
It has good Conan stories. Conan comes off looking very good.
I've always heard he's a good guy.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's definitely comes off as a good guy, but like an even better guy than you would maybe know. So that was cool. I felt like my favorite part of the book, besides the Conan stories, was Sona's kind of like battle over how hard to work, like how much to stress about work, how much to give at your job. And I thought that she didn't have a lot of analysis on sexism in the entertainment industry, though honestly, like, I don't think it's related. I think what analysis she gives kind of sums it up. But the stories were powerful in that it's very... The problem with media is that you usually get the most extreme stories one way or another.
Yeah.
And what that leaves out is like the vast majority of stories, which are like not great, but not terrible.
Yeah, there's gray area.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Ground,
I mean,
not gray area. Gray area is not the best term for it. But
some of the things that happened to her were just like annoying, and some of them were like awful, but not awful to the point where you're gonna like, I would have heard about them otherwise. You know, they're not gonna blow up on Twitter. No reporter is gonna like make a deal about them. And I think it's important to tell these stories because it's like, if you throw a rock in the TV industry and you hit a woman, like, she's going to have some kind of story like this in all likelihood. Or and a lot of women will have stories like this and just, but when you ask them, they'll say like, I don't have any of these stories. But the truth is they've just been conditioned to think that that's normal, and or they've blocked it out, and or we do all kinds of things that we need to do to survive.
Yeah.
But the reality is this stuff is just very normal. I think it's becoming less so. And part of the reason it's becoming less so is because we're talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So I enjoyed that. Would I straightforwardly recommend that book? I think if you want something that, again, asks very little of you, that was the theme, and you love Conan O'Brien, like, sure. And part of the book involved Robert Caro, and I'm also a huge Robert Caro fangirl thanks to Conan O'Brien, so that was extra fun.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Sounds like it was a good listen.
It was a good listen. All right. I think that's all.
Yeah. I don't have really much of anything.
I'll make sure that Rob watches something
Yes.
this week, and we'll see you guys next week.
Looking forward to it. And yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.